Great Scott! You're listening to the Growth Time Machine with Daniel Curtis. Don't forget to follow. Your future depends on it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Growth Time Machine, and I am delighted today to be joined by Tim Miller. Tim, how are you doing?
I'm doing awesome, Daniel. How are you?
I'm great. Do you know what? It's exciting to be speaking to you. I look forward to this conversation. So many exciting things to unpack. So if you're ready, we'll jump straight in.
That's awesome. And I want to first thank all your listeners for listening. So yes, my name is Tim Miller. I'm currently a motivational hypnotist. This coming from a person that never believed in hypnosis most of my life. My background really is in coaching. For 20 years, I was a football coach. My last job, I was the head football coach at a small NCAA Division I school. I was very, very fortunate during my time to have a gentleman named Dick Vermeil, who was in the NFL Hall of Fame for coaching.
Hall of Fame?
Yeah, just actually was introduced to him back in 2004, and he was extremely kind to me. He really took interest in me, and one of the greatest compliments I ever got was a voicemail from him saying that I reminded him a lot of himself. So he would have me come out in 2004 and 2005, and I would stay as his personal guest. He would have me sit in every individual coaching meeting, all the big team meetings, the individual meetings, and just really learn from some incredible leaders, along with processing through things that I had learned and places that I was going. And at the same time, my greatest accomplishment is I've been married for over 35 years to my best friend. We have 3 kids. They're all in their 30s. But at that time, when I was trying to make a decision and I was doing stuff with the Chiefs in 04 and 05, I was lucky to have the resources of a Dick Vermeil, and there's another gentleman there named Mike White. He used to be the head coach of the Oakland Raiders, that were very willing to help me go in whatever direction I wanted. But at that time, our youngest son was having a lot of problems with drugs and alcohol. So I'm sure, we all have those stories, right? Whether it's with ourselves or whether it's with somebody that we love. And God bless my wife. She did an amazing job, but I knew it wasn't the proper time for me to be traveling. We were living in Philadelphia. So when the head coaching job opened up in Philadelphia at a small Division I school, it was perfect. So I was there. That was my last job in coaching. And at that time, our son was getting progressively worse. And I want to fast forward now. He's amazing now. He's a health nut. He only grows his own food. And so for parents that are listening to this and you're going through that struggle, because there's no other struggle than when something's going wrong with your kids, understand that the day will come that they're going to call you every single day and tell you how much they love you, which I already had that call today. But during that time, it was very scary for us. So I left coaching in 08, and I had to find something to do. I was lucky I had around 6 months of income from my coaching contract, and I decided to go in real estate. And the very first day I got my certification, that's when the market collapsed, the whole industry, if you can remember back in 08. Yeah. And I can remember not knowing much in regard to real estate, seeing the lender walk in as if she had seen a ghost. But the one thing I've learned from that experience is sometimes when there's a dramatic change, there's also opportunity within it. And the whole real estate industry changed at the time. And at the time, things like short sales were really unheard of. I kind of became an expert with that. And in the first 3 years, I developed a top 20 RE/MAX team in the tri-state area. I was inducted into the RE/MAX Hall of Fame in 5 years of doing that. And it was a very humbling experience at first. So I don't know if you or if any of your listeners have transitioned into something new and it's kind of going out of who your character is, Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. You wanted to say something?
No, absolutely. Do you know what? It's one of the biggest patterns that we have is that people are at a crossroads.
Yeah.
They have come to a point in their life where, for whatever reason, it has come to pass that they're in a position that their life is not the way that they wish it to be. Sometimes that's through a realization. Sometimes that's through faith. Sometimes that's through physically being in a situation that makes them uncomfortable. Or sometimes it's more of what you've described. A situation in life comes along, something that tests us, something that makes us have to change direction. And I think some of the words you've already shared, and hopefully we can unpack a little bit more as we go, about having a child who is physically going through an incredible amount of suffering and pain. And obviously that has this incredible knock-on effect to the people who love them, to the community, to those, friends, and not just friends, but even neighbors. There's a situation going on at the moment at home here, which is linked to an eating disorder of my stepdaughter. And, I absolutely hear that extraordinary worry, that kind of need to do everything you can, but also the fact that things can and do get better. So, yeah, please continue forth.
Well,
we're excited to have you.
To preference everything with, I identify myself as a Christian first, and I say that sometimes I believe we Christians, we push people away because we're so aggressive with it. So, it doesn't make me any better or worse of a person. It's just if I tell my story, that's a very important part to it. And I think during these times, it really contests those relationships, right? And the one thing that kind of got me through as I'm transitioning and losing my identity, because I always viewed myself as a coach, right? And for 20 years, I really didn't ever call somebody to ask them for help. I always had people contacting me, right? So now I go into this industry of real estate, and the whole push from a sales perspective was, you have to call your sphere of influence, right? You have to call your connections. Now, I had thousands of people, the NFL coach, everything else in my Rolodex to call. But it was such a tough ego hit for me that I refused to do that. Like, I refused to do it because I just couldn't take. So what I did was I acted as if I didn't know a single person in the world. And I just basically cold called. Now, one thing I always knew how to do was work. But through that process of humbling myself, there was one thing that stuck with me, and something I learned from one of those coaches, and the gentleman since passed. He was the defensive line coach for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I was sitting in that meeting room with the defensive line players, and there was one of the players that his attitude was lacking, all right? And this coach said, and it always stuck with me, he says, most problems in the world can be changed simply by changing one word, changing the word have to get. Now, it's a simple thing, but if you really use it in your everyday life, and there's things that you don't want to, let's say there's a relationship you don't want to deal with, say, I have to go and deal with this relationship. By simply, if I rephrase and say, I get to, it's kind of a reminder that, take the country that I, am from, America, right? And there's poverty, and that doesn't mean we shouldn't fight that poverty. But then you look, across the world, and my God, our people that are in poverty would be almost living amongst the best in some of these other countries. And, I think there's strength in that. And I can definitely say that my failures, and I've had a lot of them, has shaped me more than my success has shaped me. And I think we can learn more about ourselves during that time. And that's what I love about what I do now. But go ahead. I'm sorry. You were going to say something.
No, not at all. I was going to reflect on something you said earlier. You mentioned faith, and faith being tested by certain situations. And I remember sitting in a studio waiting to go on to speak to the presenter at a BBC Radio 2 show on a Sunday morning. And the guest before me was a rabbi. And the rabbi was talking, and incredibly captivating. Mm-hmm. And what he said was, look, bad things happen mm-hmm. because they can. In order for good things to happen, the opposite must also be able to happen. Mm-hmm. For someone to have faith, there must also be a lack of faith. Mm-hmm. for someone to have ambition, there must be also a lack of ambition. Mm-hmm. For someone to grow, there also has to be a lack of growth. Otherwise, everything in life would just be the same. And he said, bad things happen because they can. And that was a very profound moment for me, because I think the majority of people have those questions, those doubts, right?
Yes.
That when something particularly difficult is happening, you question faith. You question whether you deserve it, they deserve it, the circumstances, why, in particular, you're going through this rather than someone who has perhaps no faith. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I think, genuinely, there is in this world a mixed bag of people. There are very few people who are what I call completely apathetic. They're the people that I find the most difficult to talk to, because people who say, I do not believe, and are absolutely passionate about that, what you find is they're open to having a conversation. They may not be saying the same thing you're saying, but they have this great opinion. They have these words, they have this feeling, this strong emotion. Mm-hmm. But those who go, I don't care and I don't want to get into that conversation because it's, whatever, total rubbish, go away from me. That's the opposite of faith, apathy. And I think as long as we're testing things in this life, right? As long as we're pushing forward, as long as we're asking questions, seek and ye shall find. It's my favorite passage from the Bible. And, I think it's true. And I'm already picking up with you that obviously that time was incredibly difficult. Mm-hmm. And, maybe through this conversation, you'll share a little bit more about that, because I know there are portions of our audience who are incredibly fascinated by that, by people who have questioned and also seen the light come back through.
Yeah, and we're, from a faith perspective, I believe that we're meant to continually grow in our faith, right? And the one thing I've come to understand is, from a Christian perspective, if the whole premise behind Christianity is that there's an eternal life waiting for you. Yet we, as people, we always want to judge things based off of what? Our birth and our death. But yet we're taught that the majority, that's a very, very short period on our timeline. And so sometimes I believe maybe we're not necessarily supposed to understand, what happens. I don't know if it's a direct analogy, but you're taking a small child into the grocery store and you're going through checkout and the child wants some candy. Now for that child, that's everything, right? They want that candy. They don't get that candy, it's the end of the world, right? As the adult that, the candy's probably not a good idea right now. They'll maybe get sick. You know what I mean? It's not the proper time for it. So you do what? You say, listen, I'm sorry, you can't have that. And the child does what? Flips out, is crying, arms are swaying. I just wonder if God looks at us that way sometimes, right? And that's the vision that I have, So that's kind of my take going through different things in regard to my faith, right? So
I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as I kind of went through this journey with an incredibly supportive wife, I developed this real estate team, and I started to, those people that I didn't want to call, I recognized I was becoming one of the better people in the industry. So it was no longer me asking for a favor. It was me being able to do a favor, right? I think for those of us, if you're in a job and this isn't where you really want to be, and you want to be, somewhere else, you have other goals. I'm not a big believer in just stopping that job. I don't believe that. I believe it's a perfect opportunity, because no matter what, I've had dream jobs. I've been a full-time football coach. I've been somewhat of an elite real estate person. And now I'm an entertainer and speaker. I go all over, not just the country. I'm in Grand Bahama now, where we live. Yet there's things that I absolutely don't want to do. Isn't that the truth, right? We have a dream job or something else. We get to it. There's things that we just, because that becomes our norm, right? And I think that, as we kind of go through life, we have to appreciate that there's going to be times, like if you're in a job that you don't want, there's an opportunity there. So there's an opportunity to see what skills that you can gain from that job. Maybe it's as simple as giving a great effort and a great attitude, doing something you don't really care to do. Because guess what? If you can do that in a job you don't really care to do, you'll be able to get through the tough times when you receive the job or the position or whatever it is that you're looking to achieve, if that makes sense. And that has been developed over time. So there's a danger when you're successful. There's a danger when you make money, because sometimes you don't allow yourself to continue to use your imagination and continue to dream. And that was happening to me in real estate. We had just built our dream home on a couple of acres. Our kids were all officially out of the house. Kids were starting to do well. The youngest, who now is, he's very, very successful, is a health nut. And I started I never believed in hypnosis, never believed in it. Most of your listeners, I would guess, don't believe in it. Do you know why I didn't believe in it? Because the things we see on TV and the movies, they're very inaccurate, let's just say. It's not magic.
I think there's a Hollywood, it's a Hollywood, kind of TV entertainment version, right, of a particular industry, a particular job, a specific skill. And obviously, yes, people you tend to get out these pocket watches or different things, or generally it's portrayed as a bit of a laugh or for comedy's sake. There's always something attached, you find, in the kind of, I suppose, what you see on TV aspect of hypnosis. And I have no doubt the reality of it is something quite different.
Well, it is. And how I was introduced to it is being in coaching. I never had time to go on a cruise, and my wife always wanted to go on a cruise. We went go on a cruise ship, and there's a hypnotist there doing a show. And my wife goes and volunteers. I'm like, oh gosh, like whatever. Now, understand, I've known my wife we've known each other most of our lives, so I know her inside and out. And I was just blown away. I'm like, oh my gosh, like she's actually hypnotized. It really, really blew me away. And as an educator, motivator, teacher, all those types of things, like I was always interested in ways of, motivating ourselves, motivating other people. So she encouraged me to go study it and things. And I thought I used to do for my real estate. This is when I was in real estate. I was doing this as kind of a side thing. And I thought what I would do is do an event at our house. Maybe had 50 people there. And I would do like a hypnosis show for clients and things. And I did it. I loved it. It was an opportunity to talk about our thoughts and our mindset, even though it was entertainment. And I got hooked. Now, the danger here is I was doing pretty well. We just built a big house, right? We had land and all this, but I felt like I was coaching again. I was in front of people. I was interacting with people. I liked real estate, but it wasn't my passion. I was good at real estate, but it wasn't my passion. I can't imagine that there's not listeners that can identify in one way or the other with that. So I talked my wife to doing this with me. I kind of downplayed it. I said, let's just put it on this entertainment site. We'll only do local things. I wasn't worried about the money. And being an entrepreneur, I'm working at these things. And in 6 months, we got awarded best show in the country, right? On a booking site. So then I ended up booking like recognizable names like Ripley's Believe It or Not, and these types of things. So slowly the show's and the show on my speaking platform, because a lot of what I do is I feel the best way to get to people is through entertainment. Then you blow their mind like, oh my gosh, this is real. And now we can talk about everyday ways that we can overcome our thoughts, and our thoughts are what lead to negative behaviors. I think we all can agree to that. And as this thing's getting successful, I have a problem. I have a successful career over here, and I have a career that's nowhere close to financially rewarding as the professional career, right? And those tracks, they go like this. And so long you can have 1 foot here, 1 foot there. And at some point you have to make a decision. And my wife, agreed. And we sold everything we owned in 2019, everything. The dream home, all the cars, all the stuff, everything. We're used to, if you need more room, you build another garage type of thing. We bought an RV. I bought a truck. We lived in it for 2 years and we toured around the country. She had a very successful healthcare profession that she left. I had a successful career as well. And we went for it. And there's so much that we learned in that process, probably the best 2 years of our life, because we didn't have to worry like whether we could afford something or whatever. That wasn't the issue. But if I wanted something, I had to try to figure out what was I going to get rid of, because we lived in an RV. You couldn't just grab something and build a bigger garage. And it taught us this minimalistic approach. And it allowed us to grow. It also put us in a position that if we're put in the position that I'm in today, which we're successful in terms of financially and those types of things now with what I'm doing, I know that the worst thing that could happen to me is I could lose everything. I could go live in an RV with my wife and be happy. So I would encourage people out there that success has almost been a barricade for them. Is if you're a person of faith, pray for that. It's a lot of sacrifice. It was very, very hard during the transition to selling our house and selling everything, having yard sales. And it was a nightmare. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it, but it was so rewarding. And it opened up a whole world to where we've done months in Caribbeans at resorts. I was the opening night speaker for New York Conference of Mayors. I did a 2-day seminar for the leadership of Pfizer, where one day we did entertainment. The next day I did mental health, which is where my true passion is. And the reason I do it through entertainment is most people don't understand what it is. So you have to have a group of 1,000 people. There's 600 people that don't believe in it. But by the end, they believe in it. Now there's the opportunity to say, start taking a diary of the way you think and get to the heart of why you think. And I'll say one more thing. Often we allow our failures in life to bring us down when they should actually be the one and the primary reason why we're even motivated that much more, because we overcame it if we're still living. So anyway, yeah.
I think, first of all, I want to acknowledge your wife. She obviously...
Because she's awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I can tell that already. She believed in you wholeheartedly. What a gift.
Yeah,
what a beautiful
because a lot of times people
gift.
Don't see that aspect in the story. So I appreciate that.
No, she's obviously incredible.
Yeah.
And, genuinely, that kind of commitment, dedication to wanting to see you thrive, that's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people in their relationships hope they have that. You tested that, and you really did. I would say that, you are one of the real lucky ones who have genuinely got someone by your side who just wants to see you thrive and be alive and help people. And that's a blessing. So, first of all,
along the way, I don't think she really got it at first, but it was important to me that she be on stage with me, because first of all, my story is a little bit different than most. I was very fortunate in the 70s and 80s. I actually spent my time growing up in a Black community, and I had people of color back during that time that had actually physically experienced slavery. Yet they always made me feel so loved. They didn't make me feel different. And I also had a supporting family that my dad, when I was young, he took a chance, went out as an own something and became very successful. So I got to be in the country clubs and the different establishments we sometimes associate with quote unquote success. And I got to see the best in people. And I love diversity. My wife is Black. She's from the same community. She's incredible. She's awesome. You could put her in any type of environment she's going to fit in because she's a great person. And it was important to me that she's on stage, because even though we don't get into, I don't speak about my own story on stage, because I believe every single individual, their top motivator isn't me. Their top motivator is themselves, but they don't see themselves clearly. And that's what my mission is to try to help empower people to overcome the thoughts that lead them down a bad path. But by having my wife on stage, and she does a lot of the music and she has a headset and everything else, there's also an example of a couple maybe that had beat the odds. It's much more common now. You see interracial marriages all the time, but 35 years ago, it wasn't quite like that. So you see a couple that was able to sustain through that. You see a couple that, trust me, we have plenty of things we don't agree on, but that's the trick to a great relationship. It's not what you agree on. It's how do you process the things that you'll never agree on? Yeah,
I agree. I think that, in any healthy relationship, you're never going to agree on everything. And my wife constantly, tells me that, I should be looking at this a different way. But in the end, sometimes we've just got to step away and have a little think and, try and see each other's perspectives and come back together. But what you're saying is really interesting. And you're absolutely right. Going back, interracial marriages were rarely seen. A white person living in a neighborhood that was obviously more associated with, I'm not sure what exact neighborhood, but obviously people, I'll just say, who are not white for this particular point, that was very unusual. That it was something that, thank goodness, you see a lot more of now. And I am so thrilled by that because I know people who have still today, have the worst insults and the most horrific names thrown at them just for living and surviving and going through their life. So I'm sure you've seen and heard a lot of things, particularly probably 35 years ago. But, there's no doubt in my mind, you guys are the lucky ones,
Yeah, we are the lucky
not only
and we are the lucky ones. And just to tell you a side note, like 6 months ago, I was very, very proud. I've been fortunate to get different awards. Some of them I'm not sure if I was worthy of or not, but I actually got inducted into the Black Hall of Fame in the Philadelphia area, which was an incredible honor. Like an incredible honor as a white person to be acknowledged that way. It's a big part of who I am, and I can go into any kind of room, and we do. We go into any. I've performed for billionaires, and I could go into an inner city. I've been able to be loved in every setting that you could imagine. So I've been very blessed in regard to the people that, I've been able to be associated with. And it continues here in our home now. I'm in the west end of Grand Bahama Island, which obviously I'm a minority here as well. So, yeah.
And I totally respect that. I think that's an incredible achievement, honestly. If you've been recognized, in that kind of way, you should take that because you deserve it. Yeah. People don't get given those types of awards. Do you know what, though? You're just making me think here about, I know I've been very lucky. I've got to perform and do lots of things in my life and work with people who are heroes of mine when I was growing up. But I was just thinking back a second, you were talking about, millionaires and billionaires and rooms, and generally I've, done well. But there was one, I was just thinking of this club, and everything I did was wrong. I think I was just wrong the moment I walked in, and you know what? Nothing I could do. Yeah, and I was just thinking, I'm sure you've got a great story somewhere.
Yeah, I got a dandy one. So as I'm building this show, I'll try to be as quick as possible with it, how I got here. But there was an opportunity in LA, and I needed to I was affiliated with a successful person. He said, find a, and this is when I hadn't reached, I was kind of in that area. How you have different progressions in any profession. And I was like making the step up, to doing it. So I called the Laugh Factory in Hollywood, right? In LA. And the person answered the phone. I asked him some questions about rentals and stuff. And the person says, well, would you be willing to come perform in our show? Now, I wasn't from entertainment, so I didn't know. Well, here, the woman was the person that runs what they call Chocolate Sundays. Now, Chocolate Sundays is probably the most historic Hollywood comedy house. It is owned by Pookie Wigginton, who is Kevin Hart's president since he started. People like Beyonce. Jerry Seinfeld performs there for free. Okay, just to tell you, the level,
the big names,
the level of that talent. So now understand what I do. It's not magic. Like, I need time to hypnotize. Usually my inductions are anywhere from 8 to 10 minutes. And then, you have different things. Well, there's comedians that wait years to get on this stage for a 5 to 10 minute spot. So I told her, I said, well, I would love to do it. Obviously, I said, she said, okay, well, we'll give you a 10-minute spot. I'm like, as much as I want to do it, it just won't work. So I got her all the way up to a 30-minute spot, which still kind of wasn't enough time. Like, I usually need 45 minutes, but she said there's a VIP room upstairs. You can take people and take them up there, hypnotize them, the whole thing, right? So I was so excited about it. Designed the whole show. I'm not going to say people's names, but there was a celebrity host there that I was all prepared for, did material for that, everything else. And when we got there the day of, my wife needs to see me because it's not like a definite script. There's things that happen. There's sound effects she does, and then I respond to that. It's very much a lot of synergy between us. And when we got there, we just noticed a different atmosphere. The woman that hired her was awesome, right? She's very influential in Hollywood. Everybody would know who she is. And they end up putting my wife basically in the closet. The host never shows up. He ends up getting another host. I had the people hypnotized up in the thing. They would tell us it's time to come down because they were having a couple comedians go on before us. I come down the steps. They said, no, you got to take them back up. We do this 3 times. We'd hypnotize people. Now I come out on stage, and it was a disaster. This was like, if we do an average show for us, there's celebrity, everything else, we're probably coming out of it with something big. It was a disaster. But I took away from there some very important lessons. Number one, I'll never do a program again where people aren't actually physically seeing people be hypnotized, because otherwise it just looks like, whatever. The second thing I got out of it, don't you know, well, after that, I still sold out Chocolate Sundays in Hollywood. Now, I don't need them to go back and look at the video, but if I'm going out to prospect for other jobs, people say, oh my God, he performed there and sold out. He's definitely good enough for us. So there's always a way to capitalize on our failures.
I love that. And thank you for being so honest. Because it can seem, can't it, that a lot of people, that it was just up and away. It all went.
Oh my God, no.
Life doesn't quite work like that. But it is, you've said it a few times now about how people, they're in their own head, right? They are the person that can motivate them. Unfortunately, your own person is the person that can criticize you as well the most. And the opposite, as we said earlier on, for there to be, motivation, there's also a lack of motivation, and it can go the other way. So what on earth can people do? People are living with themselves 24 hours a day, whether they like it or not. And a lot of people are extremely down on themselves. And I think loneliness has a lot to do with it. I don't think people have the friends that they once did. I don't think people have the communities that they once did. And people are becoming more isolated. They're thinking more. They're having more time on their own. And therefore, what you do and that kind of perspective has never been more important, because there are times that a friend or a family member can physically shake you and go, come on. But the most of the time, we're stuck with ourselves. How do we start changing? How do we go from a place of just being in a rut, down? We're not seeing hope. We can't even be bothered to look for it, quite frankly. How do we get started?
Well, I have to start by answering it because you're asking me specifically the question. I have to tell you how I go about things. The first place I have to start is with my faith. Now, I understand people say that all the time, right? But there's so many lessons within the faith that I have that really kind of gives us a roadmap. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's easy. And that's where the everyday life, wherever your faith is, that there's tools that can be used to help us, with that journey, right? And the thing I love about hypnosis is it kind of, everyone, you've already been hypnotized in your life. Everyone listening, they may not have realized that they've been hypnotized. I'll give you an example. You get in your car, you drive a distance. You ever drive a distance, you get there like, oh my gosh, I don't even remember the trip. Have you ever had that happen to you?
All the time.
That's the alpha state of hypnosis. Now, if somebody were to jump out in front of you, you would respond. You're not stuck. You can't get stuck in hypnosis. You can't be hypnotized unless you have a desire. And my goal when I do a show or a speech or any of that, my goal isn't necessarily for everyone to go out and find a hypnotist. My goal is for everyone to actually see real proof of how powerful our thoughts and our mind. I think we can all agree that we use a very small percentage of our mind, right? We all agree to that. But as soon as there's suggestions made that fall outside the norm, we instantly want to reject those things. And people did that with meditation for years, right? Well, if you're good at meditation, you reach a hypnotic state, okay? So I think a good first step that I tell people is like to start journaling or diary when you reach those pivotal points where you come at a crossroad. Relationships are great examples, but I'll give you one that is I've learned. I never was a smoker, but smoking cigarettes is a very powerful addiction, very powerful addiction. And in the beginning, I was able to do group settings. I still do it from time to time. To help people overcome this. And do you remember back in the day, people wouldn't want to stop smoking because they would gain weight? Do you ever remember hearing that?
True. Yeah, my grandmother on my father's side very much believed wholeheartedly that, yes, if she gave up, she would she would put on weight, 100%.
Now, here's the issue. The smoking isn't the true issue, right? And this is how we think often. We try to think the surface thing is actually the true issue. The true issue is what's triggering the smoking. So people think if you're going to go through hypnosis, you're going to say, okay, you're not going to smoke. That does nothing, because if you end up the patch, which the physical side of smoking takes 3 to 4 weeks. The nicotine's out of your system. So the physical side, you can put a patch on there. You can deal with those things. But now, if you haven't corrected whatever's triggering it, those triggers are going to still be around you. You're bored, you're stressed, you're excited, you're all these things that trigger this negative response that you need to do it. So like if you go through a hypnotic session with that, you have to replace this negative behavior with what? With a positive behavior. It's probably not going to be as exciting, right? Most people understand how dangerous smoking is. But our thoughts are this way, is we think because our conscious mind is very, very lazy, all right, our conscious mind can't focus. So right now you're able to listen to me, take it in, but think about, okay, I got this appointment. It's almost lunchtime. Is this guy ever going to stop talking? like that type of thing. It's hard to make change because if take smoking, if you know that you want to stop smoking, your conscious mind is the one that says, well, you know what? I'll do it at the new year. I'll make a new year resolution. Or, it's too hard. That's our conscious mind telling us these things. Our habits are formed in our subconscious mind. Well, how do we get a habit in our subconscious mind? We have to get it through our lazy conscious mind. When you reach a hypnotic state, that alpha state when you're driving, if you think about a time you're driving, you get there, you don't remember, you're not thinking about multiple things. You're thinking about one thing in deep detail. You are now operating at a higher level from your subconscious mind. This is your best opportunity to make those changes that you know you need to make without having the lazy conscious mind get in the way, if that makes sense. So when a person allows himself, and I say that, I can't hypnotize anyone. I can provide suggestions to help someone reach that state. It's a very important difference than what a lot of hypnotists put it at. And when you reach this state, you can't give a person this much information. You have to conquer one thing. So if I'm doing entertainment, I can't then try to get somebody to stop smoking. Why? because they enter into the state with one goal, and that was to have fun. No different than if I'm doing a smoking one, I can't tell them to, stand up on the table and start dancing. They would say, this doesn't match what I'm doing. So the point I'd like to say, not that everybody runs out to get a hypnotist, although I definitely, if you're suffering with things, it's definitely a powerful resource. But I suggest that you really start to try and figure out why you think the way you do, and don't just accept the first thing that comes to your mind. It often goes back to our childhood. Often does. All of us.
So I'm going to throw a couple of things at you, if you don't mind.
Yep. I have to take something off my screen. Hopefully I don't lose it. Okay.
You go for it.
Go.
Not a problem.
You're good. We're good. Okay.
So, Darren Brown. Are you aware of Darren and his work?
Well, I'm sorry, the name?
Darren Brown.
He's not a hypnotist, but he's tell me. Go ahead, tell me. I have heard of him.
Yeah, so he's not a hypnotist, but he's a showman.
Mm-hmm.
He is, he does a lot of what you define as mind tricks, illusions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there is if we use a series of work, so, these kind of, he says that he is not psychic. He has done everything he can to debunk that.
Yeah, like Perlman. I don't know if you know Oz Perlman is, same type of thing.
Yes, yeah, very much.
Mm-hmm.
And, but Darren is all about showmanship. Darren uses subjectivity in all of his work. It's extraordinary to watch. So I know people would be angry with me if I did not ask you. We know there's a level of susceptibility. Some people, I am going to hopefully be correct here. Some people are more susceptible than other people. And some people are obviously more malleable in terms of that as a form of treatment. But how, first of all, do you find out that someone is more susceptible to that? And also, how can it be done? Or could it be done without somebody consenting? I know people will want to know the answer to that.
I'm glad you asked it. I'll start with the last question first, right? You can't be hypnotized without a desire to be so. Now, I don't screen. If we do an event, usually depending on the size. If it's a couple hundred people, I have 10 people. If it's a little bit more, we'll have 15 people on stage and whoever. And then I encourage everyone in the facility to go through it, because during that 8 to 10 minutes, it's not necessarily exciting, yet you could get yourself into a very relaxed state, because 1 hour of hypnosis equals to 8 to 10 hours of sleep. So even if a person goes through that 8 minutes and then pulls themselves out of it because they don't want to do the entertainment part, it can be rewarding. So to answer your question, you can't be hypnotized unless you have a desire to be hypnotized. So that's the first thing. And I know that to be factual. All right. The other question, I'm sorry, tell me what the other.
It was about susceptibility. It was about.
So we definitely are. And to be honest with you, the more intellectual a person is, the greater capabilities they have, the problem we have. So let's just take, not that this is always the case, but let's just take the CEO. We get hired by a big company and the CEO's there. Everybody wants the CEO to get hypnotized. Or I'll give you a better example. I did a show, I won't say the state, for judges and lawyers in the state.
Okay.
So the issue, very intelligent people. If I had a cast of 10 of them up there, there might be 2 of them that end up reaching that level, but they are so incredible that it's amazing. The reason sometimes the other people don't, this might not be the proper term, but I'll say it, is insecurity, in the sense of you're a CEO of the company, you're worried about what you're going to look like, what you're going to do, everything else. Or they don't truly understand what it is they're being asked to do. If I were to say to you that I'm going to go control you, your natural reaction should be that no, you're not, right? And that's why I think I've been able to be successful, is because I think I properly educate people on what it is. This is not about you losing control. This is about you gaining control at a specific task. If I were to ask you to do something against your morals, you would reject it. But then if I'm going to do something fun and it's a person that's shy and I tell them to stand on a chair and sing the national anthem, is that really against your morals? It's not really against your morals. It's against your comfort level. So, there's a big difference between those things. So I've hypnotized thousands of people from all walks of life, and it amazes me every single time. This is about taking more control over your thoughts and learning more about yourself and why you think the way you do. Every individual, I believe, can be hypnotized. Why? Because probably most of us have gotten in that car, driven somewhere, and you kind of zone out. That is hypnosis. Make no mistake. It's not some shining light that comes through and it's like, oh my gosh, it's not that way. We never know the moment when we fall asleep. We really don't truly know the exact moment when we drift into a hypnotic state. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
it does.
Yeah. And I don't screen though. In what we do, I let everybody try it. I let everybody do it. Some nights I'm sure you fall right to sleep. Other nights you might toss and turn. It can be similar with hypnosis. One night might not be your night. But there are definitely people, especially people with great imaginations. They can be great imagination, intelligent, and understand what it is they're going to do. They are the best candidates.
And I think a lot of people may have the misconception that is the reverse.
Yes.
That perhaps the more intelligent.
It's what I'm fighting, because my goal is to be the one that mainstreams hypnosis, to get rid of all the false narratives that I believed most of my life. I was that person. Thought it was a bunch of garbage, right? And so yeah, I mean, there's a greater good to it. It's a greater understanding. We end up dreaming, right? And we have dreams. You have crazy dreams. Where are you getting those dreams from?
Yeah,
where are you getting them?
That's a question a lot of people have spent a lot of time on.
Where are they coming from? They're coming from your mind, everything else. To think that, and then some of them are real bizarre. So like when I have a person hypnotized, they're almost in a dream state where they will accept, they won't push back unless it goes against their morals. They won't push back unless it's something they physically can't do.
So tell me, for you now, two things. What did your friends, I don't know if your parents are still with you, but
then, yeah.
What did they think of this? What did they think of this trajectory?
Oh, they thought we were nuts. Yeah, but I haven't really ever put much stock into that, it's been an amazing journey. Like it really has been an amazing journey. I sit here. I mean, I have a beautiful home. Right on the water. Not that means anything. I lived in an RV for 2 years, so don't, and that isn't what gives happiness. But I have 3 kids that are awesome, that are all great friends, 2 grandkids, a great marriage, and then I welcome the challenges, and that was a challenge, right? But my wife and I believed in what we were doing. We also believed that we weren't just doing it from a selfish standpoint. We believe that this is something that could truly help people. And that really is our mission. We hope if all we're doing is going out and doing silly stuff and no one's walking away with a greater message, then I've failed, right? Regardless of how big of venues I've done, but we feel that the responses we get from people is that it opens their eyes to maybe a new way of thinking.
So would I be right in saying that from the moment you mentioned something earlier on, you didn't just drop the job you were doing, you did this as more of a kind of side, some people may use the word hustle, side hustle, side gig, job, and you tested it, you saw that it had potential. But was the purpose always the same? Was it always about trying to connect with people, to try and help people? Or was there a sense of, I want to be an entertainer as well? I actually want that element of being in front of people to entertain as well as deliver this message. How important, if I rephrase the question, how important is the showmanship and the entertainment towards maybe what we could define as the purpose? How important are those two things? Do they need to stay together? Or, does the stage show give you something that maybe one-to-one doesn't? Maybe you could just dig into that for a few minutes.
I think they go hand in hand, to be honest. Like, I really, really do. I see one can't happen without the other. I believe because of a lot of the misconceptions. For an example, let me take the Pfizer thing we did last year, right? Which was, awesome honor. I don't feel the second day. I always tell people, let's do the entertainment the first day, right? Now people see it. They actually see people they know, and they're like, wow, this is actually, now there's, well, okay, this is real. It's real. So now the next day we go on and we do a mental health without all the goofy stuff, which getting yourself into a position where you can make positive change in your life. And so from a perspective of helping people, I don't see the path there without presenting in an entertainment way to open the door, right? So the entertainment for us, and I say us because I'm proud to, this is something that my wife and I are on the same road and journey. The entertainment part is the hook. It's the hook. It's the hook. If you ever go to, and I can give you our website, if you go to our website, you'll see any of the motivational clips that you usually see. I don't post the private mental health stuff, but I post the end of every show, no matter where we are, including Hollywood or anywhere else. It ends with a very motivating message. I'm a football coach. That's what I'll always be. That's what my identity is. That's what I always go back to. And, life's tough, right? Life's tough for all of us. And I've recognized that, the more I fail at this often, but the more I take upon as an opportunity to make somebody smile or make somebody, although it might be small, I'm actually empowering myself, right, to do that. I mean, all of us have an opportunity every day to impact other people. You're at the store, you hold the door for somebody, right? You smile at them. You treat somebody with a little bit of grace that maybe treated you disrespectfully, right? These are all opportunities that all of us have in our everyday life to make a difference. Sometimes happens to the person, it's here and then it goes. Other times that person, who knows, they might be at their last, straw in that little bit of kindness that you shared. So I view the entertainment part as that.
I think that makes a great amount of sense. I think what you've said is going to be very different for the people listening. It's going to give them a very different perspective on ways that they can help themselves or help people they know as well as themselves. And that's incredibly valuable. I wonder if you could share a couple of things. First of all, how on earth people can find these videos and how they can, get you on LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever you're at. And also what you've got coming up, because I know you've got some really exciting things. So maybe you could tell us about that.
Well, I'll start first. I mean, the best thing to do is just to go to our website. You can see the social media links there, but it's Hypnotizing America and Hypnotizing. Most people don't know how to spell hypnotizing. It's HYPNOTIZING America.com. And for those of you that did know how to spell it, I knew you knew how to spell it, but I just wanted to make sure somebody out there
absolutely
didn't know how to spell it. I'm very excited right now. Remember we talked about transitions. I am in a transition.
Very much so in a transition right now. I want to get to this as quickly as I can. When I first was starting, I always wanted to create something new, never been done before. And when I was getting good at the hypnosis shows and we're doing maybe colleges and different stuff, I came up with this idea to interject comedians into our show. And we did like a comedic hypnotic thing. And we did a 3-show run in Philadelphia where I'd have 3 comedians perform 10 minutes before our show. And then the audience would select one, and then they'd have to interact with the hypnotized people. And it was very funny. The challenge I had is I was starting to also go into that corporate field at that time. And, God bless them, but a lot of these comedians, I mean, they're getting high in the green room and all this stuff. And I couldn't, it's not about judging somebody, but I just couldn't attach my brand to that. So I went ahead and I moved away from that. Well, we then
before COVID transitioned into doing a game show, right? It was very successful. We did it in 2 places. But during this time, another hypnotist, and good credit for him, in no way am I trying to say it upsets me, because good for him for taking it. Whether he saw what I did with the comedian challenges, because we did get a lot, we had 50, 100,000 views on those videos. He came up with this idea to add a comedian to his show. And I don't know if you ever watch Whose Line Is It Anyway, but the name Colin, I think you pronounce it Mockery or something like that. He got him to sign on, and they worked on this going into COVID. The last 3 years, it's had 6-month run off Broadway, 6-month run in Vegas. It's grossed over $10 million. And it's basically the concept that I came up with before. Wow. Now, look, to have a concept is just the easy part. And then you got to execute the plan. To his credit, he executed the plan. But I decided, you know what? I need to now try to tackle this game show. And it's going very, very well. I'm not going to name drop right now, but I realized when I did the game show originally, we did it on a small TV network. I was everything, meaning I was the host, I was the hypnotist. We had 3 judges. It was an awful lot. And I'm a high energy person as it is. And, you know, I feel like is my own perspective, like it's probably too much. So I decided I need to add a co-host. So we've been interviewing co-hosts. I never have added a manager, just because in the beginning I was trying desperately to get an agent. I had 200 calls. None of them ever return email, return call, right? And then I got to the point with what I'm doing where I was winning national awards on college campuses and conventions, and I was the only one without representation. Now all those agents wanted to, you know, and I'm sure you all have those stories. They're good stories to have, right? And
absolutely.
So I kind of got to the point where I was earning more than those, so it didn't make sense to me. But now doing what I'm doing now, I knew I needed a specific type of agent, you know, higher level, dealing with bigger venues, everything else. We just came to an agreement this week on that. He actually happened to be, I guess I could say, but the manager or agent in the beginning for Hip-Prov, which is a perfect connection because he understands what we're doing. I have commitment from a very well-known former TV show host, which that'll be released another time. We're talking right now with a social media influencer with over 6 million followers. So we want to bring in different hosts of different demographics, understanding what we love. So I have somebody that I know that may or may not be interested in this. That's one of the top impersonators, been on Conan 50 times plus. So having different types of hosts for different types of venues. So we're hoping that we already have interest. This is just after a few days of being on the East Coast, maybe in the fall. So I would appreciate all your listeners checking in to Hypnotizing America. If we're lucky enough to have this thing, you know, actually succeed and we're able to see you, I would love if you came up and said, my wife and I love that. Like, so, but anyway, thank you for asking.
Do you know what? I have no doubt that you will continue to go on and do great things as you have. I mean, you worked with Pfizer, you know, it doesn't get bigger than them. They're amongst the biggest companies on the planet. And you've worked with the big people, you've played the big places, and you had a concept. But there is nobody on earth who can execute the concept like you can execute the concept. And that's one of the biggest things I've learned in this world, is that there are similar ideas and people will pip you to the post somewhere or come up with a creative way, but it will never be the way you would do it.
Do I have to pay you for these comments?
Do you know what? If I can, you said it earlier on, if you can say something that, you know, or just, you know, inspires or makes someone smile anywhere along the way, you know, then, you know, that's a good thing. But totally, nobody can execute it like you.
Well, that's
so don't
you to say that. That's very kind.
Don't you ever worry. Don't ever worry about what someone else has done. You know, Jimmy Carr, he's one of the UK's great comedians, and he said it better than any human being I have ever heard say it. He said, look, every person is jealous of my Netflix specials. They're very jealous of my worldwide tours, which have sold out. Very jealous of my TV shows. But they are not jealous of the 10 hours a day I spend writing gags.
Yeah.
They're not jealous of that. They don't want to do that. And that's the difference. You know, it's...
Yeah. Or all the failure and rejection that you get in these professions. It's an awful lot. People see the finished product of something. I say it all the time with coaching. I got to see a lot of men or women that are, sports fans. They would love to have that position, but would they love it in March on Sunday night when they're not around their family? Like, would they love like all the things that go into that? And I'm so happy that you just said that, because understand this: life is not meant to not have things you don't want to do in it. I'll never retire because I don't ever want to. Life is not meant to not have these struggles that we've talked about today. It's not meant for that. The only thing we can control is how we handle it.
So I wonder if you do me two things. The first thing is a challenge to you. The very first thing is, don't you ever...
My wife.
Yeah, you get it. You get it. You tell your wife as well that, I have a lot of respect for her. I give you this challenge that whatever you do, whatever someone has done before, ignore it. Whatever that original concept was, grow it, make it your own, and go after it wholeheartedly. Do not even think about them. You are not playing the same game as them. If we talk about this wonderful concept that Simon Sinek often talks about of infinite games versus finite games, you are not in a game with anybody else apart from yourself. Don't even think about it. Just go for it. And you'll do it your own way. And that's what's beautiful about it. So the first thing is do your own thing. Second thing, when you've got something else you want to talk about, please come back. Drop me a message.
Thank you.
I'd love to talk to your wife as well. It'd be wonderful. So, it'd be incredible. So they're my two challenges. Go forth with the promise of possibility always. And, when you've got something you want to talk about again, please do, because...
Thank you so much. And I want to thank you.
No, it's been a joy.
I mean, you give both of us a lot of value to take the time to listen. So, I appreciate them thinking this is interesting enough to listen to.
I've loved listening to you. I think, you are a great thinker. Clearly, someone who cares a lot. And they're my favorite people in the world. People who have empathy and want other people to succeed. They're my favorite people. So,
thank you so.
I wonder.
Very kind of.
It's a joy. It's a joy. I wonder if you just close us out with, maybe the greatest piece of advice you can offer, the best piece of advice someone's ever given you, whatever's on your heart, whatever's there. Maybe you'd lead us out with that.
I'd like to keep it just simple. It goes along with what we're saying. Do. Just simply do. Go out and do. It doesn't always have to be perfect, right? Go out there. Part of achieving something is learning what doesn't work. And doesn't mean you don't prepare, but just go out and do. Right? That's going to reach somebody. Somebody's on the fence about something, right? You make a decision and then you make the decision right. You don't think about, I did this wrong. You just make it right. And you try to always keep a perspective on what's most important to you. You can't go wrong.
Timala, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Danny. Thanks so much for having me.
It's very true. It's a privilege. And we'll catch up again. So keep doing your good things. And,
you too.
Yeah, that enthusiasm you've got is a beautiful thing as well. So,
awesome.
Yeah, I wish you well, my friend.
Same to you.
You take care of yourself.
Thank you very much.